Bonjour tout le monde, à toutes et tous, pour être ici ce soir, le 20 février, pour la réunion du conseil. So welcome everyone to the February 20th meeting of the Council of Dorval. Thank you for assisting the previous session, which was a presentation. Just for information, for those who are here, the council will not be approving the new proposals that were shown earlier today, and we will defer to next month. But we'll do a little bit later, and that comes from, the fact that we feel that we need to have a little bit of more reflection based on the comments that were presented tonight. Donc, avant qu'on commence avec le conseil. Juste pour dire qu'on a eu la présentation et le conseil ne va pas accepter la proposition ce soir. On va faire ça officiellement un petit peu plus tard dans la réunion. Et la raison pour ça, c'est que suite à vos commentaires, pour les personnes dans la salle ce soir, on va peut-être prendre un peu plus de temps de réflexion avant on va revenir avec peut-être des modifications. Donc, on va commencer avec l'ordre du jour. Est-ce que je pourrais avoir un proposeur, s'il vous plaît?
Je propose avec le repousser le 3.3, comme vous avez mentionné.
Merci.
J'appuie.
Quelqu'un est contre? Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres ajouts à faire à l'ordre du jour? Donc, oui. Donc l'ordre du jour est accepté. Si on pouvait se lever pour un moment de silence, s'il vous plaît. We're going to rise for a moment of silence, please. Merci. On va commencer avec la période de questions dans 2-3 minutes. Il y avait une question qui a été posée par un des conseillers à la dernière réunion du conseil. La question était, un élu est-il en conflit d'intérêts s'il vote sur une résolution accordant une subvention à un OBNL alors qu'il est membre ou administrateur d'un organisme? So there was a question raised at the last council meeting by a councillor. And the question was, is an elected official in conflict of interest if he votes on a resolution granting a subsidy to a nonprofit while he is a member or director of an organization? It's an important question. I think it needs to be answered. I will answer it in English and then come back to the French. The answer is no. The mere fact that he is a director of a nonprofit doesn't place him in a conflict of interest, since the financial assistance benefits the nonprofit and the elected representative derives no personal financial benefit from that decision. This would not be the case if the decision that provides him with a direct benefit affecting his own patrimony, and the elected representative must then choose between his personal interests and that of other citizens. Donc, en français, la réponse à la question est non. Le simple fait qu'il soit administrateur d'un OBNL ne lui place pas en conflit d'intérêts, puisque l'aide financière bénéficie à l'OBNL et l'élu ne retire aucun avantage financier personnel découlant de sa décision. Il en est autrement si la décision lui procure un profit direct affectant son propre patrimoine et que l'élu doit alors choisir entre un intérêt personnel et celui des autres citoyens. Donc, si on n'a pas de questions là-dedans, les membres du conseil, parce que je pense que ça répond à la question qu'on a demandée. Là, j'aimerais dire qu'en avant à la table, vous avez tous vu des piles de notre règlement de régie interne. On sait que la dernière réunion a duré extrêmement long, peut-être une des plus longues dans l'histoire de Dorval. Et il faut mentionner qu'aujourd'hui, on va essayer de suivre notre régie interne un petit peu plus strictement. Faut mentionner qu'on est dans une période de questions. On n'est pas ici pour débattre et passer une vingtaine de minutes à débattre une question. Et donc, pour ce soir, et je vais répéter en anglais, pour ce soir, je vais demander que tout le monde pose leurs 3 questions et après ça, retournez à votre chaise. Je vais répondre aux questions. Et on va faire la totalité des questions de membres qui sont ici dans la salle, qui n'ont pas directement envoyé une question, et pour tous ceux qui ont envoyé une question en ligne. Après, on a lu les questions de tout le monde, répondu une fois les questions de tout le monde. Là, on va ouvrir la séance, ou on va extensionner la séance pour 30 minutes pour que le monde peut revenir avec soit une autre question ou un suivi sur une question qu'ils ont posée. À tous les 30 minutes, le conseil va décider et ça c'est dans le règlement, décider d'extensionner la période de questions. Donc, je pense que c'est important qu'on pose nos questions. On va répondre assez vite que possible et j'espère que tout le monde aura l'opportunité, comme tout autre conseil, d'avoir des bonnes réponses à leurs questions. So tonight, due to the fact that the last meeting was extremely long, probably one of the longest in council history, I think we're at the point where we're going to have to start enforcing our internal regulations on the management of a council meeting and question period. Question period is a period where residents can ask questions. That is how it works in all cities. We're getting to the point now where we're spending, 15, 20, 25 minutes having back and forth debates, and that's not a question period. So tonight we will proceed with allowing everyone in the room who's here who hasn't sent in questions to pose their questions. They will be answered. And then we will go to the questions that were sent in by mail. I would ask you to pose your questions. You all have 3 questions. And then return to your seats and I will answer the question. Once we have done all of the questions, and we have close to 20 questions tonight, so 20 times 3 is a fair amount of questions, then we will have a 30-minute period where people can come back and maybe ask a second follow-up question or a new question. And then we will proceed at 30-minute intervals. Council will have to decide whether or not we move forward. So I'm just letting you know. We discussed it a little bit last week. The regulations are at the front table. If you would like copies, they're both in French and English. So let's go ahead and proceed. We will take questions from people who have not submitted online, but who are in the room at this time. Is there anyone who has not submitted online? Yep.
Name and address.
We need your name and address, please.
You just have to go really close.
Okay, like that? Okay.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Nia Oland, and I live at 155 Thorncrest Circle. My question is concerning the construction of the refrigerated ice rink, the one that is meant to be placed right next to a perfectly fine arena. Will this affect the the sledding hill and the soccer fields that so many children have basically grown up in and are a huge part of their childhood.
So, thank you. Is that your only question? Is that your, yeah, okay, thank you for your question. So, yes, I have to meet with some of the residences on the street. I know your father, Mr. Olin, asked me to evaluate whether or not we could move the construction a little bit more to the east, and I have that information for you. The administration provided that to me late last week. So I'd like to get together with you and your 3 neighbors and review that. To your question, yes, the hill will have to be moved, but the hill will be rebuilt slightly more to the south of the property. Is the refrigerated going on property, on land that was a soccer field? Yes, it is. I've reviewed there was question that the field was used in high usage, and with the discussions that I've had with our administration, it's actually not in very frequent usage. It was used after the pandemic. I believe it was not used officially last summer, and having been on the executive of Dorval Soccer for 10 years, I know that it was not one of the most important fields in the area. So yes, it will be built on the field, and we will be moving the hill, and we will be building a burn behind the arena, behind the skating rink, where we will be planting trees to help in noise reduction. And Mr. Olin, I'd like to show you, how far and where the placement of the rink will be. We are able to move it to a certain point, but I need to show you those plans. Tilt it down.
Hello, my name is Maxwell Oland. I live at 155 Thorncrest. Why do you have to take away the mountain I play on and the soccer field I play on that my dad coached me on?
So, thank you for your question. Good question. The goal here is to rebuild a brand new hill right beside that. I think we'll have an opportunity to reshape the hill, to be able to maybe even make a little bit of a snow park if that's what we want. So I think we have that opportunity to rethink the hill. It's going to be in the same area, and I think everyone's going to have just as much fun. Excuse me, on the new hill, and it'll be the same, generally the same size. In regards to the soccer field, there's synergies that exist in having equipment close to the arena. A Zamboni, we need to have, it works very well when it's close to the arena. It has access to water, it's heated. Otherwise, we would have to build a much bigger structure to store our equipment. We also have employees that are there, and they can work on the inside while we're using the outside rink, and every hour they can switch back and forth between the 2 rinks. So building it in a different location would involve different problematics in the operation of the rink. Having the 2 rinks close side by side, I think is more effective in use of our personnel and our equipment.
Good evening. My name is Peter.
It's kind of on.
It is on. Good evening. My name is Peter Rowland. I reside at 155 Thorncrest Circle. First of all, Thank you for the opportunity to have my kids participate in a democratic process. I think it's really valuable. They wrote their own questions. Mine are a little different, probably in the wording. Whereas no needs assessment for an $8 million expenditure has been conducted, and whereas no consultation has been conducted formally with the residents of the adjoining properties, namely mine and others on Thorncrest Circle, and whereas no environmental impact assessment has been conducted, will the city consider postponing the coming motion for the approval of this structure to allow for these democratic consultations to take place?
I don't think we're approving anything tonight, Mr. Olin. I would like to meet with you. I understand that there are a few people in the area who are not for the project. I think we've done a lot of effort in listening to everyone's concerns. I don't think this project is a brand new project. It was discussed prior to the elections, I believe many times. It was on the electoral platform of some of the people at this table. Everyone on your street received a letter. At the end of the day, I heard from 3 households. I understand that there's a 4th, but they never contacted me. And so the project, from a city point of view, is very well received. And again, I'll say that I think we've done a lot. We're going to propose to you a slightly a site that's slightly away from your property. We want to build a burn between the skating rink with greenery and trees planted, which will definitely help with the noise. We have a unique design where we have a sound wall on one end. These types of facilities are built with four open walls, and in your case, we'll have 3 open walls. It's also a low-profile rink. The roof is very low, and that's to help with the lighting. So I think we've listened very hard to some of the concerns, and I look forward to presenting them to you.
I'm going to ask my second question. Whereas there is a large space running in the north-south orientation located to the east of the aforementioned sledding hill, and whereas locating the proposed ice rink in such a location would allow access to not 1 but 2 parking lots, the Dorval Arena parking lot and the Dorval Library parking lot. If it was located in such a place, you could come in from either side easily. And whereas locating the ice rink here would diminish the noise and light pollution for residents on Thorncrest Circle, and whereas locating the ice rink here would preserve established soccer fields and sledding hill, will the City Council consider altering the proposed location of the exterior ice rink?
When we meet, you can show me that location, but we can't go into the Arboretum. We have a space that's beside the arena that does not have a lot of mature trees. I believe there's only a few. If we go into the Arboretum, I don't think we can do that. A lot of defeats the purpose of having an Arboretum. And we turned the orientation of the rink specifically so that you would not have an open section right to the houses that are on Thorncrest. That was part of listening to the complaints that I heard during the elections and in the last few months. Again, we've turned the arena in a way so that the noise will not be directed directly to the houses. It will be directed north and south and east. We have a wall on the west side, and doing what you're suggesting will just create more noise, more light pollution in your backyards. We're trying to minimize. We're trying to work very hard to make sure that we have as little impact as possible on the community beside the arena. I think we just need to get together next week, and I'll show you what we have. Is that good?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else in the room who hasn't, sorry. children, thank you very much. It's very rare we see children here, so thank you for coming out. I know it's probably a little bit difficult to speak in front of people, so good job on you guys. Is there anybody in the room that hasn't sent in their questions that would like to ask a question?
Why do you need to build the structure when you have when you already have an arena next to it?
Okay. So I think it's a great question, and I think this year kind of, if you want to sit down, you can. This year kind of shows us where we're going in regards to climate change. We had a lot of difficulty building ice for our outdoor rinks this year. I haven't seen them this week, but I don't think they're usable this week. We've had maybe three valid weeks of ice, and the skating path we haven't even been able to get operational at all. What the refrigerated covered rink will provide is the ability to extend the season much longer for outdoor skating. And I think there's a lot of children like yourselves who would like to be able to skate in the wintertime as opposed to being inside an arena. And this is going to help make sure that we are able to have one rink from the beginning of December, maybe even depending on the temperature, even into into November, and going into end of March, maybe even in April. That would have to be an exceptional year, as opposed to what we have today, which has been about no more than 4, maybe 3 weeks of good ice skating time. I think if we look at climate change, we don't know what we're going to have in the future, and this could end up in a couple of years being the only outdoor skating rink that's viable. The other important factor to this rink is that it can be used in the summer for other activities. We have day camps in the area. Let's say it's raining, the day camps can go underneath the roof and organize themselves there. We may have deck hockey. We're going to have a public consultation on parks very shortly, and we're going to be asking people what kind of use there's going to be, what kind of other uses we could use there. There could be dancing, for instance. It could be short concerts as well. So I think it opens up for a lot of activities in the summer where we can be outside in a covered area. And that might be interesting for some citizens. Yeah.
It's a school night.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Thank you. Am I able to call you tomorrow, Mr. Olin? Okay. On va commencer avec Madame Fournier. Si vous pouvez venir au micro. Est-ce que Madame Fournier est dans la salle? Non. 3 questions. Est-ce que les séances seront enregistrées sur le site Web afin de permettre à tous les citoyens d'être informés s'ils ne peuvent pas être présents lors des dates sélectionnées? Merci. Je vais vous dire que ça, c'était une question de Mme Fournier qui est venue le mois dernier, qui était arrivée après l'heure de midi. Donc, Mme Fournier, non, on n'a pas enregistré les sessions pour les consultations publiques sur l'urbanisme, parce que c'était vraiment des ateliers, hein, et c'est difficile de bien filmer un atelier. Quand même, si vous pouvez me donner un coup de fil demain, ou moi, je n'ai pas votre numéro de téléphone, mais si vous pouvez me donner un coup de fil demain, peut-être j'ai une proposition pour vous pour être capable de participer à une réunion. Deuxième question. Depuis quelques années, nous entendons que la piscine et les installations connexes seront rénovées. Est-ce que ça sera fait avant le début de la saison 2023? Merci. Madame Fourier, la piscine va fermer à la fin de l'été. Ça va être la première piscine à fermer à la fin de 2023 et elle va ouvrir au début de la saison 2025. Donc, c'est fort possible qu'elle sera fermée pendant l'année 2024, sauf si les travaux vont très, très bien. Et c'est possible, on va savoir plus une fois que les travaux ont commencé, mais c'est possible qu'on pourra ouvrir pour peut-être les 4 dernières semaines de août, mais je crois présentement qu'elle ne va pas être ouverte l'année prochaine. 2024, exactement. Troisième question, je n'ai pas pu enregistrer mes questions avant de les soumettre. Est-ce que c'est normal? Si oui, pourquoi ce n'est pas possible? Je ne comprends pas la question. J'avais les questions ici, Mme Fourier. Encore, si vous pouvez m'appeler demain, ce serait bien. J'aimerais vous parler. Question 2, M. Capellano. Est-ce que vous êtes dans la chambre? Mr. Capellano, your questions on air quality nanoparticles. Hi, I was wondering what is being done with the obviously present pollution caused by the airport. It is said that the air quality is worse than, I guess it's before. The downtown core, by far, I'm not sure. The question ends, so not sure how it continues. Also, the particles are constantly making everything I own black, and I'm afraid for my 2 young daughters would consider moving to protect them. We've discussed this question, Mr. Capellano, on a few occasions. The issue of health is a provincial jurisdiction, and it is up to the provincial government who manages health in this province to look into this issue. I cannot say whether or not the pollution is harmful to someone or not harmful. I'm not a doctor, and I am unable to statuate on that. The other thing is that the report from the McGill journalist is a statistical report. It has nothing to do with health. It's simply saying that there are more black carbon particulates in Dorval, and I presume that surrounding cities as well. And so it's just making reference to a number. I really feel that I speak to my counterpart at the provincial level, and if people are concerned, I recommend that they speak with our deputy, which is Mr. Enrico Ciccone. I've also spoken with the federal government, with the Minister of Transport on this issue, and he tells me that his department is looking into the airport and the concern of the report. And for us, again, this is the right thing to do. We should speak to our federal MPs, as the management of the airport resides at the federal level. I cannot statuate on the operations of the airport. So I think at the end of the day, the answer is here. It's important that everyone speak with their provincial and federal counterparts. I'm having those discussions, and of course, if people are very concerned, they should do the same as well. Question 3, Mrs. Selenev, not in the room. Question 1, as brought up in recent public consultation, Dorval is in the need of housing solutions that work for the aging population that would like to age in place, and one such solution is granny flats, also called accessory dwelling units. There are many benefits are discussed in the attached files. Thank you for the files. It ends with making better places, Island Press. I guess, that is 10 steps to making better places, Island Press. It's a document that was provided. Will the city consider passing an accessory dwelling unit ordinance based on successful models and creating a city program encouraging their construction? We have heard this issue before, where we've had, people have installed non-permitted units in their backyards or in the sides of their properties, which has caused issues with residents and neighbors. So at this point, the city does not have a policy. It's there to be reflected upon, and that will come out in the following the surveys on urban planning that we had. I can tell you that we are one of the first cities on the West Island who does legislate intergenerational homes. We approve one, I would say, every 3 or 4 months. They are popular, and it seems to fit the need. And so that's, at this point, that's how I can answer the question. I think we're going to have to see what the results are on the consultations, to see where that fits in, the accessory dwelling units. But in the meantime, we suggest people who want to have their in-laws stay with them is to contact urban planning and review our bylaws on intergenerational homes, which I think is very interesting. That was the only question. Question 4 is Mrs. Neal. Oh, Mr. Neal.
No, Mrs.
Miss- Sound wall along Heron Road. Hello, I have previously inquired about a sound barrier along Heron Road for the purpose to reduce the increasing noise and air pollution that our citizens along Heron Road and close to have endured, and was told 2 years ago from the council that until the overpass from Sources and the airports are finished, a sound wall would have to wait. What's the status on this work, Sources and airport, and when is this expected to be completed? Is the city considering a wall in the future at some point? So let me answer the question. We are working, we're definitely working with the MTQ in finding some sort of solution to completing the Dorval Circle. We all know the condition of that circle is. There seems to be some movement with the announcement from Via Rail that maybe they're going to redo the intermodal station, and with that, we hope that the Dorval Circle will also be redone. At this point, all I can tell you is that we will ask about, we are asking about greenery along the highway, but in regards to a sound wall, there's no discussions at this point, and we would like to see the circle completed as soon as possible. Second question, landscaping and trees along Heron Road. I was told by Mayor Dorey during the campaign that in the interim, that some form of landscaping and trees could be planted that could act as a barrier running along Heron Road and Highway 20, bringing a more aesthetically pleasing appearance to a neglected section of Dorval. Is this in the plans for the spring or not at all? Yes, I've spoken with the DG. We're again on several issues with the management of the Dorval Circle and along the highway. We are contacting them. We're trying to get them to be a little bit more proactive in solving, the problem of broken fences, planting some vegetation, garbage collection, etc. So we will be meeting with them in the coming weeks, and we will again push this dossier forward. Is that correct, Monsieur Houdou? Yes. So thank you for your questions. Monsieur Kadri, are you in the room? Monsieur Kadri, question on the soccer facility. Can the city explore the feasibility of an indoor turf facility for soccer or other sports? It can either be a permanent structure or a removable bubble. As parents of young children, in the absence of such a facility in Dorval, myself and many others, we're currently taking our children to other municipalities for this service. If soccer is the fastest growing sport in Canada, the largest around the world, this sort of facility will serve as an attraction for young families at all economic levels, and a must for the city of Dorval of our caliber. Municipalities such as Ville Saint Laurent and Kirkland are good examples of communities that invested in such facilities and now have thriving sports program all year round. Monsieur Kadri, as I mentioned before, for many years, I was on the executive of Dorval Soccer. I was on the executive when when the city of Dorval, I was not a councillor at that time, but when the city of Dorval decided to build a turf field. The turf field was never built to support a dome structure. It's extremely large. And there was a decision at that time to not make it a covered field, and we would be able to keep our grass field and our turf field, which I think is very important. We've also worked with or tried to have private development in Dorval for sports facilities, and those have not come to fruition. So at this point, there's no plan for a dome over a soccer field or for building a different soccer field at the present time. So thank you for your question, Monsieur Kadri. We had a question from Mr. Levine. I think I've answered part of that question already. Mr. Levine did not provide his question in the format required. He was asked to either be here or provide it in writing in the form, and at this point, we're not going to read his question. I have reached out to him. I have explained what I explained earlier in one of my other questions. Question number 7, Mr. Pellicer. Not in the room. Okay. Last month, Mr. Mayor, you confirmed that Dorval will be assisted by a grant to survey and identify the buildings which predate 1940, other sites and other items of heritage importance, such as the McConnell Estate walls. I understand the survey will be done in 2024-25, following a process established by Quebec Ministry of Culture. My questions are, who on behalf of Dorval will direct the survey? And the answer to that question, Mr. Pellicer, is that it will be the City of Montreal. As I explained last month, the project is being run by the City of Montreal for all the merged cities as well as arrondissement of Montréal. They received a very substantial grant for this, and so we will have very little, working. We will not have people actively on that file. I'm sure our Director of Urban Planning will be involved, but this work will really be done by the City of Montreal. Question 2, can the citizens of Dorval and local heritage interested groups such as Dorval Historical Society be able to participate at the start of the process? Well, I don't think, Mr. Pellicer, that I can comment on that because it's not the City of Dorval that's running this project. It's really the City of Montreal. And we're not there yet. The project hasn't started. So I suspect that we're about a year or two away. And once we understand that process better, maybe at that time we can revisit that question. Question 3, regarding the McEachern Estate walls and entrance of the renovated St. Charles Park, I understand that this part of the project will be issued as a public tender call. My question is, when will this take part? My question is, when will this part of the project be issued for tender call? I believe the answer is next month, and I believe, yes, it is going to go to tender, but I'm going to ask Monsieur Rouleau to maybe provide some details.
Je confirme ce que vous venez juste de dire. I do confirm what you just said. We should be under tender next month. Oui, c'est ce soir, là, dans l'ordre du jour, on est déjà allé en appel d'offres.
Yeah, okay. I apologize, Mr. Pellicer. We're going to be approving it tonight. Mrs. Cornoyer, question number 8. So I'll ask you to read your 3 questions, please. I made a little exception for the children, but I'll ask you to read your three questions and then sit down.
My first question is, Mayor Doré, you had indicated that the survey results for the BC2 consultation would be posted on the city website. Also, at last city council meeting, you indicated that the feedback indicating major flaws in the survey would be brought to the council for a rethink. And my question is, what's the result of the city council's deliberation? Will the survey be redone to allow more open input on the part of Dorval citizens? Or will the results be posted to the city website?
Question 2, please.
Will there be a public consultation and feedback on the preliminary ideas? I was very disappointed that there was no explanation given at the consultations as to what the pictures on the posters represented. And alternative citizen input was limited to tiny stickers that could only contain a few words. By contrast, other cities undertaking consultations have included full briefing documents for their citizens and plenty of opportunities for input. When will we know how BC2 interprets these results and what they really mean? And what opportunities will Dorval citizens have to correct any errors made in the interpretation by BC2? Will there be a public consultation and feedback on the preliminary results?
Question 3, please.
I just want to make sure you heard that one. What are the
Well,
next stages in citizen
I heard it,
consultations?
Mrs. Cornway, but has a lot of questions in there, right?
Well, it's all aspects of the same question.
So I'll
Mayor
answer,
Doré.
I'll answer generally.
Many citizens have expressed an interest in having consultations on specific regions. For example, citizens in my area would like to see focused consultations on the Montreal-Toronto Boulevard and Bouchard Boulevard, including the Bell Building area. Citizens want an overview that would include North American group plans so as to see how the parts fit into the whole. There should be consultations on the Dorval South and Dorval Avenue, a consultation on Heron, Fenelon, as well as consultation on the Old Village. What are the next steps in the consultation process, and will it be possible to have focused consultations on each region targeted for densification?
Thank you. I'll start with answering your question 3. We just finished a consultative process where we discussed each one of the groups that you just spoke to. So in answer of your question, we're not going to restart a new consultation process. We just had that consultation process. I think what's important is that we wait for the report to be provided to council. Council will have a look at it, and then we'll be presenting it to the public. And I know that's part of another question. But to say that what we've done is flawed and we're going to start over is a matter of opinion. I can tell you there were people there who were very happy to participate in that process. It took full, were there, participated as much as they could, and made sure that their opinions were recorded. So I understand that maybe some people didn't like it. I think it was well done. Now we just need to wait to see the results. I'll reiterate what I've said in the past. We had 1,002 survey responses, which is incredible. Even BC2 was very happy with that, and I think we were happy with that. Now we just need to wait for the report. I can't presume that what's in there. I can't presume that it's bad. No, I can't presume that it's good. We're going to have to wait till that information is processed and provided to us. In regards to your question 1, we're talking about major flaws in the survey. I mean, that's what you're saying. Will the survey be redone? Mrs. Cornway, 1,002 responses is statistically very impressive. And again, some people may have felt that it was not properly done. Others will tell you it was well done and understood. I know my wife had no issues going through it. I was not there when she did it. We need to wait for the results. Assuming that it's all bad, at this point, I think is a little bit premature. It is your question. What is the result of the deliberations from council? Will the survey be redone to allow more open input by its citizens? And will the city be posted on the website? So, no, we're not redoing the consultation. I explained a few moments ago that we're waiting for the presentation. The next step in the process is for council to see the information. That will be followed up with a presentation to the general public, along with a matching question and answer period as well. That's where we're going. That is the next step. After that, in the fourth stage, there will be some projected changes to our urban planning, but now we're talking about April, May. We're far from there. The next step is for us to receive the report, be able to review it, and get it in a format where we can present it to the residents of Dorval. And to your second question, again, you're comparing us to other cities. You're again saying that the format was not well done, and you're questioning, will the citizens have an opportunity to correct any errors? I don't know what errors there are. We had a working sessions. We had 3 of them. They were very busy. I think we had 175 people. To say that none of their work is valid, Mrs. Cornway, I can't accept that. So it's really a matter of opinion, and we're going to have to wait to see what the presentation brings us. Question number 9. We are going to present the results to the public, and once we present the results to the public, then it will be posted on our website. No, we're not posting the results of the questions. To my knowledge, Monsieur Rouleau, are we posting the responses?
We didn't put any, no.
No. No, we're getting a report that we will be presenting. No, it has not been presented.
Yes, it was, yes.
We showed some very statistical, we had a little bit of information. The next step, folks, is a interpretation of the survey results, a presentation that we have not seen yet. It will be, and the working sessions. All of that will be brought into a report that we will be presenting in a future presentation to the public. If it's going to be 1 or 2, we'll decide that at that time. And at that time, residents will be able to ask questions. Okay, we're going to move on with the questions. And then at the end of reading all the questions, if you'd like a rebuttal question, you can come to the microphone.
Monsieur le maire, j'ai une question.
Oui.
Je veux juste bien comprendre. Nous n'aurons pas les résultats des questions au sondage?
Oui, vous allez avoir un rapport et une présentation de toutes les questions et les résultats des études. Mais là, on n'a rien vu. Là. On attend ce document à être... il n'est pas préparé encore.
Non, mais on va avoir...
Mais on va
avoir des résultats de chaque question au sondage.
On va avoir des résultats...
De chaque question au sondage.
J'ai aucune idée, Monsieur Brault. On va avoir un rapport à présenter aux citoyens. Monsieur Rouleau, est-ce que vous sachez la réponse à la question?
En fait, on est un peu en dehors du règlement de régie interne. Madame, vous pouvez poser votre question par la suite, à l'après. Mais juste pour résumer rapidement, vous avez raison et le maire a raison. Il y a certaines parties du sondage qui ont été utilisées pour faire les workshops, mais il y a d'autres éléments dans le sondage qui n'ont pas été utilisés pour le workshop, et on va recevoir un document qui résume l'ensemble des consultations, je dis bien l'ensemble des consultations, qui sont divisées en plusieurs phases. On peut continuer avec la période de questions.
Parfait, merci. Question 9, Madame Levac. Est-ce que vous êtes dans la salle? Première question. Le CUSIM vient de supprimer les services d'urgence à l'hôpital La Chine, à l'hôpital qui se doit de servir les citoyens de Dorval. L'hôpital Lakeshore ne suffit pas à la demande. Les services ambulanciers sont en pénurie de main-d'œuvre. Tout l'ouest de l'île est concerné. Quelles actions sont prises par la cité de Dorval à ce sujet? Madame Lévesque, je vais avoir une discussion cette semaine avec le directeur et l'assistante directrice du CUSIM pour poser des questions et voir qu'est-ce qui se passe. Je sais qu'il y a beaucoup de discussions dans les médias. Moi, qu'est-ce qui est important? J'ai eu un appel le jour qu'ils l'ont annoncé. J'ai eu une discussion très, très vite. Je sais que moi-même et la mairesse de la Chine ne comprend pas bien ce qu'on nous a expliqué et on a demandé pour une deuxième rencontre ce qu'on va avoir cette semaine. Donc, pour le moment, je ne vais pas statuer. Je sais que c'est concernant pour les citoyens, mais avant de me prononcer là-dessus, je pense que j'ai besoin d'avoir des bonnes réponses et à ce point-là, je pourrais revenir avec la population à la prochaine étape. Mais je sais aussi que Monsieur le député de notre Enrico Ciccone est sur ce dossier aussi, est très concerné avec ce qui se passe. So, pour le moment, ma réponse est là-dessus. Je veux qu'on m'explique qu'est-ce qui se passe et pourquoi et quel va être l'impact sur nos citoyens. Et aussitôt que j'ai cette information, je vais essayer de la communiquer à la Ville. Question 10, Madame Roland. Êtes-vous dans la salle? Non. Existence of a traffic study on Carson Dawson. My question number one, during the March 21st meeting 2022 council, at minute 44 of the video, Monsieur Lesage mentioned the traffic study. Mr. Doré reinforced the promise. We will be announcing the study in the next, I'm going to say 2-3 months. That is to envision circulation around Carson, Dorval Avenue, etc. If we can even get it out to Bouchard, it will be there. My question is, has the traffic study on Carson and Dawson been realized in March 2021? And the answer to that question is that I do not have a report at this time on any studies. I do know that there are studies that have been prepared by developers which are not public. But other than that, we do not have a study that represents that whole area. At this time, I would say that once we finish the urban planning project that we're on right now, once we understand what the general feeling is for Dorval Avenue, on both sides of Dorval Avenue, along Dawson and Carson, and that intersection, and Bouchard, then we'll be at a better spot of being able to have a city generate a study of circulation in that area. We're not ready to do that yet until we know the results of the surveys and the discussions, the public consultations, and until we really know what kind of density we're going to have. Until then, we're going to hold back having a study, and then come back probably in 2024 with one that is not done by our consultants, our developers, but one that is done by the city itself. Question 2.
J'aimerais avoir la parole, s'il vous plaît. J'ai une question.
Moi, s'il vous plaît.
Oui. Juste me confirmer qu'avec tous les projets acceptés sur l'avenue d'Orval, la Ville n'a aucunement commandé des études de circulation pour savoir l'impact. C'est tout ça que je comprends?
Oui.
Que la Ville n'a pas commandé d'études d'impact avec tous les condos qui vont être construits sur l'avenue d'Orval. Donc, on n'a pas planifié ça.
La Ville, monsieur...
Les études d'impact sont faites par les développeurs, ça j'ai compris, mais la Ville de Dorval, nous, on n'en a pas commandé au service de l'urbanisme pour savoir s'il y allait avoir des problèmes de circulation avec l'avenue des tours à condos.
L'information qu'on a à présent, M. Bruce, c'est qu'il n'y a pas de problème. Mais comme j'ai dit, la Ville va préparer une étude. Une fois qu'on a conclu le processus de consultation publique qu'on est en train de faire, et comme ça, on va savoir quelle sorte de densité où on va avoir dans ce coin-là, avenue d'Orval. Et une fois qu'on a cette information-là, on pourra faire une étude pour la Ville, qui va être payée par la Ville et pas nos développeurs.
Donc, présentement, on n'en a pas commandé d'études de circulation pour savoir l'impact que ça allait avoir sur nos rues. Oui, c'est ça que je comprends? C'est bon.
Oui, c'est ça que j'ai répondu. Oui.
Juste...
Thank you. Question number 2. Thank you, Madame and Monsieur Councillors, for adding a flashing stop at the corner of Carson and Roy. Having in mind that North American Group occupation is expected to start in 2023, what is the current status of the Circulation Committee's work regarding the safety in children walking and biking to Jancy? So, Madame Roland, we're conscious of this, and we're a little bit a few months behind on our bike zones, bike paths, and bike zones study, which is also separately. We also have a study on this, securing the school zones as well. That will kick off almost in the next week or two. In regards to people, living in the building that's being built presently, it's not going to be 2023. It's going to be closer to, maybe anywhere from the first month to the 6th month of 2024. So we're hoping to have the bike path study and the school zone studies all done before those buildings are being lived in. As well, our circulation committee, to your question, is also studying the issue right now, and if we need to make changes in that area, we will do so. So that's where we are at this point, so thank you for your question. Regarding the densification of Region 4, Heron, Fenelon, what conclusions have been drawn from any consultations? Well, as I replied before, there's no decisions have been drawn yet because council hasn't seen the report and it hasn't been presented to the population. So we'll only be able to start talking about what will happen in the Heron, Fenelon area, for which we have nothing planned in that area in terms of development at this time. I think that will come, maybe a reflection will come maybe in the summer or fall of 2023. Will the city publish the report? Of course, we've said so. And that will include the section 4, which is Heron, Fenelon. So thank you very much for your questions, Madame Roland. I appreciate that. Mrs. Glodicki? You're here. Good, I can have a sip of water.
Okay, so my question 1, Valentine Pool repairs, I believe you answered that, right?
Correct.
Mrs. Fournier?
Yeah, correct.
I heard that. So anyway, I want to know when are The repairs necessary for Ballantyne Pool are going to be done. They've not been mentioned, but you did answer that question. Question 2, NADG development. What percentage of green space is allocated in this development, and why was this area allowed to be 16 stories? Question 3, City of Montreal allocating 30% green space. My question itself is, why isn't 30% green space a requirement for new developments? Bois Frank in Saint Laurent, the Aura has 30% green space for that one of their development. And how will Dorval meet this requirement when we barely have 4% green space total?
Thank you, Mrs. Glodicki. I love your question number 3, by the way. North American Group, and I have a diagram here that I will leave with the Assistant City Clerk at the end of the meeting for you. It shows the plan. Yeah. Okay. It shows the plan, the future plan, the 4 towers, and then the construction, the future construction on Dorval Avenue, and that plan. Due to the density, the height, the high level of density in upwards, has 50% green spaces in that project. And the reason I like, that question is because this is what, comes out of the public consultations is that, the higher we build, the more green space we can have. The question is, how much higher do we want to build? I think everyone accepts that, there has to be some height, and then that way we can have some green space, right? The lower we build, if we all build, 2 stories or 1 stories, then most likely we'll have a less green space. So that's the balance. I think the whole point of this consultation is to reflect on where people are. I don't know where everybody is. I meet people on the street and they tell me, but the whole point of the consultations, the whole point of having 1,002 surveys completed is to get a better understanding of what that kind of density is going to look like, because I think everybody wants as much green space as possible. So this shows you that we can have green space. So I'll leave that for you after, and if subsequently you want to discuss it, I'd be happy to discuss it with you. We're talking. You asked about the 16 stories. I think we all have to remember that project was brought forward during a previous administration. At that time, it was proposed. There was discussions with the developer. They made presentations. I believe they had a session at the mall. They had, models made up. And so there was a lot of discussions with the public. But at the end of the day, it was a referendum that there was the potential for a referendum with, part of the owners of the buildings and the residents on the east side of Dorval Avenue that were involved. There were some on Dawson. There were some in the unifamilial on single home territory, which is in District 3. So these people were invited to a register, and the register passed, and the zoning change that were asked for at that time were approved. So we can't go back on that. It was done at that time, and we can't reverse that decision. That was the process that was available at the time, and so, the reason it's 16 is because at the end of the day, many of the residents came to an agreement with around that area, came to an agreement with the developer to build a little bit higher and be a little further away from their backyards. And then they had an agreement for a little hill to be built with greenery and trees and shrubs. Monsieur Lesage is very much aware of that. And because of those adjustments that were made between the developer and the residents, the register succeeded. So that's how I can answer that question. I hope that's satisfactory. Monsieur Picard, in the room? Monsieur Picard, name your park contest. Question 1, concerning Dorval's contest to name a park, I have submitted the names of Agathe St. Pierre, who acquired the land of the said park, which was part of the Domaine de la Présentation in 1685. She has been recognized as an important part of Dorval's early history. She was designated by the federal and provincial governments as a National Historic Person for being the first businesswoman in Canada. She also established the first textile industry in Canada. She saved the colony of New France from freezing to death. I have sent you the documents from the Historic Sites and Monuments Board of Canada and from the Minister of the Environment of Canada that acknowledges her as a National Historic Person. Dorval has a unique opportunity to promote and celebrate a proud and significant moment in Dorval and Canada's history. My question is, have you designated the park yet? And if so, who among the proposed names have you chosen? Who are the 3 names and how will you honor them? In addition, what were the numbers and are they available for public viewing by voters? So the answer to your question, Monsieur Picard, is that I've provided the 3 names. It was council that reviewed the 3 names. I'm not going to get into the 3 names tonight. I think it's best that we just we'll let our communications team, but I suspect that the survey will be available at some point this week. I encourage people to vote, as many people to vote once. The winner will be announced in just after 4 weeks. We're going to have 4 weeks where people will have the opportunity to vote. So I look forward to that. Monsieur Picard, thank you for your information on Agathe St. Pierre. She is a very important person in the history of Dorval, and however, most people know very little of her. So we'll see where the naming contest goes. Question 13, Mr. Momoni, are you in the room? What percentage of Dorval existing apartment buildings have fire sprinklers and central ventilation systems? Mr. Momoni, I don't have the answer to that. We do not have an inventory of that information. It's not required by law, and there's many old buildings that have very unique characteristics in the city. We just don't have that information, so unfortunately I can't clearly answer your question. Electric car charging stations. What percentage of parking spaces in the new high-rise buildings will have charging units for electric cars? Example, Square Dorval project. I don't have that answer either. We're asking our urban planners. Monsieur Hulot, did we get that information before tonight's meeting, or we'll forward it later?
Concerning?
Electric charging stations for Square.
We don't have the info for Dorval.
We don't have that information yet, but we'll forward it to Monsieur Mamoni.
Exactly.
Very good, thank you. Future LEED and net zero projects in Dorval. Will any future project of LEED certified or of that LEED certified for net zero, besides Collège Saint-Anne, examples in the new arena LED building? Mr. Mamoni, that's going to come out in the survey as well. I think the council is working with the Environment Committee. We have 2 councillors on the committee, and that will be something that they will have to get the committee to review. The city of Dorval, the resolution that we're not approving tonight, that was discussed in the meeting prior to council on the fees for developers. We did discuss, encouraging lead building concepts. I think at this point, and I'm speaking for myself, I think the city needs to go net zero, really, and not lead. I think we need to go one step further, but that's a decision that will be reviewed by the Environment Committee with my two councillors, and it may even come out during the consultation. So that's where we are. But definitely we have to be a little bit more responsive to the environment in the coming years. Thank you, Mr. Mamoni. Monsieur Carrière, question 14, vous dans la salle?
Peut-être on fait 15 puis on revient.
Monsieur Nozola. Mr. Nozola, you have a question that is directed to Mr. Von Roers. However, as president of the council, the question needs to come to me. I will ask Mr. Von Roers if he wants to answer the question. If not, I will answer the question.
I thought you were going to ask a question to anybody on city council. You can't do that, apparently? No? You're saying that?
I'm the president of the assembly tonight, and questions are presented to the president. As I said, I will ask Mr. Von Roers if he wants to answer the question. If he does, he can, and only Mr. Von Roers will answer. If not, I will answer.
Okay. Question one was for Mr. Von Roers, our environment committees. It seems from last month's discussion that two of our subcommittees on the environment were dissolved. Is that accurate? If so, why? And who was involved in that decision? I assume that the main committee is up and running. How often have they met? What has been discussed? Have they made any recommendations? Can I have the minutes of those meetings? Question number two for Mayor Doré, patronage appointments. The Environment Committee was the first time that citizens had a chance to apply to sit on a committee to advise the city. This was an open and transparent process and enabled talented people to step forward to volunteer their services. I will ask again, will this council commit from this day forward to open up all appointments to all committees to the general public so that any qualified citizen can apply? Also, will this council commit to releasing all minutes of different committees to the public? Question three for Mayor Doré, the Bouchard Creek. The sad state of the Bouchard Creek continues to be of concern to a lot of Dorval residents. We recently had a chemical spill into the creek. The creek runs through our industrial park where sewers empty into it. It ends up in Lac St. Louis. From when you were first elected to City Council, has the city taken any measures to deal with contaminants and pollutants being dumped into the creek? Are you planning to take measures to deal with this important issue in the near future?
Thank you, Mr. Nizola, thank you. Mr. Von Roers, do you want to answer question one?
Yep, I don't mind.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Nizola, thank you for the questions regarding the Environment Committee. I'm going to follow along here because I think there were 6 questions in there, but I appreciate they're all related. So, were the 2 subcommittees of the Environment Committee dissolved? Is that accurate? Sort of. I'll give you the context, and I think that'll answer the question. When the Environment Committee was formed last spring, the new committee looked at different structures and said, what makes sense? What do we want to work with? And at the time, the decision was to create 2 subcommittees and assign volunteers to work on each of those 2 subcommittees that each had some different areas of focus. Over the following months, it was realized that there were probably more effective ways to work coming from feedback from the members of those subcommittees as well as observations from the members of the Environment Committee as a whole. And so at their October meeting, the Environment Committee decided to modify the structure based on the feedback that it was receiving from the members of those subcommittees. So now the current process, current structure uses working groups, but we still acknowledge that this might not be the final structure because we're still within our first year of operation, and we're playing around with that. So is it accurate that they were dissolved? I would say they were restructured. If you want to say dissolved, we can say dissolved. But everybody on those subcommittees are still working. I would argue that they're working more now with the new structure than they were before because it was changed in response to their requests. Who was involved in that decision? It was based off feedback from the subcommittee members, and ultimately it was decided by the Environment Committee, with particular reflection being requested of the members of council on the Environment Committee, so Mr. Bro, Dore, and myself, who had a dedicated meeting to discuss that. Second point, I assume the main committee is up and running. How often have they met? Indeed it is. It's met 6 times since its inception, which is roughly the number of meetings that are envisioned each year, so about every 2 months. What has been discussed? A number of things. And I think here I'm going to address all 3 of these questions of what has been discussed, have they made any recommendations, and can you have the meetings of these minutes all at once? So first time we got everybody together, the subcommittee members and the committee members, that was one of the points we discussed, is how do we want to share the work that this group is doing? Do we want to publish our minutes every time they meet? Do we want to use social media? Do we want to publish an annual report? And the conclusion of that Environment Committee early on was, at least for the first year, and maybe the first couple of years, an annual report made more sense. And that decision was made because, to be perfectly honest, to your point of what's been discussed, for the first few meetings it was largely administrative. What are the terms of reference for this committee? What are its priorities? How is it moving forward? How is it restructuring itself? Which wouldn't be particularly exciting minutes. At the same time, there is exciting stuff happening. One of the things that a recommendation that was made to council that the council adopted during its budgeting process for the 2023 year was the creation of a communal garden facility at the Royal Dixie Park. So that's a recommendation that came from subcommittee members to the Environment Committee to the City Council, and that's going forward. In terms of other recommendations and other topics of discussion, I can share that, and I think if you want to request the minutes of these meetings, that's actually a question from the city clerk. But the intent behind the committee wasn't to share the minutes on let's say, a bi-monthly basis, but rather present it all as a package in an annual report, because that's where we can show the progress. If we're reporting like, okay, so this month we've decided to start studying this, and a few months later it's, well, we've progressed with this and we did a presentation, but now these are the following things to work with. The committee's feeling for now is that is not as impactful and necessarily as informative to the community. This is a topic that we continue to review. So at the end of the 2022 year, the Environment Committee rediscussed this and said, does this make sense? Are we comfortable with this? Do we want to move ahead with an annual report? The answer was yes. That should be coming sometime in the spring. There's a date that we have in mind, but I want to wait so it has the positive impact it's meant to. And also just touch on, when we prepare minutes, it's not done through a communications lens. So it is factual, this is what we discussed. When we make an announcement, like what was done with the communal garden, we like to make sure that all our ducks in a row. We want to make sure the communication department is involved in that process so we can announce and answer people's questions. The intent for this is not to obscure transparency. By all means, ask at any point, but it really is so that we can make sure we can answer the questions properly and in a coordinated communication plan.
Thank you, Mr. Van Aert. Mr. Nozol, questions 2 and 3. I'll start with question number 3. I don't know if you heard the interventions I've made in various media, and around in January, I guess. Around Christmas, around January. I'm very concerned with the status of that creek and the environment of that creek. I even mentioned that, I would like to have a discussion with ADM, possibly in finding a ways to filter what comes out of the airport property. The reality is the ADM is only part of a problem. There's a lot of illegal dumping that goes on. It's very difficult to catch. It's done at all hours of the night in very dark places. But when that happens, we work with the agglomeration. The agglomeration has a service of the environment, and as soon as we identify something or illegal dumping taking place, we advise them and they come in and deal with that situation. It runs very, very well, and I find the best people who help us are the people of Mousseau Velvet, because they are the very first ones who see that there's a change. They are very, very good at letting us know very quickly when there's something going on. And most times it doesn't get to the creek. But you did make a statement in your question that says that states the creek runs through our industrial park where sewers empty into the creek. That's totally false. There's no direct sewers or drains that go from industrial into Bouchard. That is something of the past. It's long been dealt with and doesn't exist. When we get pollution in that creek, most times, not all the times, but most time, it is un dépôt sauvage, an illegal dumping. And and then we respond as quickly as possible. That's really the best that we can do there. But I can tell you, it's not because they're dumping from within their buildings. They're dumping. It's a fault or illegal dumping.
I see sewers running into the creek. I see sewers, pipes running into the creek.
Okay, Miss.
I assume those are sewers.
So you can come back. I'm going to answer your 3 questions. After we've gone through all the questions, Mr. Nuzola, you can come back with a follow-up question if you like. I think Mr. Von Roerts answered question number 2 very well. Question number 1. Question number 2, the Environment Committee was the first time that citizens had a chance to sit on a committee. We have different committees where residents sit. We have the Environment Committee, we have the CCU, and the Phone Aid, where we have residents. At that,
Chance to apply. All those committees, no citizen had a chance to apply.
Mr. Nuzola.
No point if you're friends to those committees. See, the general public did not have a chance to apply.
Mr. Nuzola, you're out of order.
So if you're going to answer the question honestly and properly.
Mr. Nuzola, I had, I'm going to give you the opportunity after answering all the questions to come back to the mic. Everyone here is waiting patiently for that very same opportunity, and I hope you can understand that process for tonight. Okay. Thank you. So my answer to that was yes, we do have the Environment Committee with residents, the CCU with residents, and the Phone Aid with residents. And no, they're not all my personal friends, Mr. Nuzola. And in the future, if we feel that we do need to expand people on committees, we'll do so. We're not against it. We will do so, and council will reflect when that will be appropriate. Monsieur Carrière, vous êtes revenu?
On peut les lire pour vous ou vous pouvez les lire?
Je vais prendre un autre gorgée d'eau.
Je pense qu'il est fatigué.
Oui.
Donc, Charles Carrière, je vous présente. Non, peut-être parce que vous avez tout ça ici. Hein? Donc, ah oui, c'est... oui, pouvez-vous me donner une mise à jour pour ce qui est de l'usage des embarcations de plaisance à Pointe-Picard? Donc, ça m'intéresse. Donc, ça, c'est ma première question. Deuxièmement, la maison du gardien, près du Force and Stream. Je veux juste savoir aussi s'il y a eu quelque chose qui se passe. J'aurais aimé ça, savoir s'il y avait une possibilité un jour de donner accès aux citoyens, aux visiteurs de ce bâtiment, qui pourrait être utilisé comme un café où les profits, s'il y en a, seraient remis à une œuvre de bienfaisance à Dorval. Je suis prêt à offrir de l'aide et m'impliquer dans ce projet. Donc ça, c'était ma deuxième question. Puis, troisièmement, c'est au niveau de la plantation d'arbres. La planète ayant toujours besoin de plus en plus d'arbres afin de purifier l'air que l'on respire. Il y a d'excellents reportages, là, découvertes, Nature of Things. En tout cas, là, on entend les bienfaits des arbres là, continuellement. Je crois qu'il faut toujours encourager cette pratique, qu'elle se fasse sur les terrains de la ville ou bien sur ceux des particuliers. Pouvons-nous nous fixer des objectifs et tenter de les réaliser ensemble? Encore une fois, je suis prêt à offrir de l'aide et m'impliquer dans ce projet. Merci de votre attention.
Merci beaucoup pour vos questions. On va commencer avec les arbres. Oui. Les arbres, on en plante chaque année des montants incroyables. J'ai demandé à M. Rouleau de nous sortir les statistiques pour l'année, la saison passée. Et je crois qu'on était presque à 1100.
500 arbres sur le domaine public et privé.
500. 500?
500 arbres
500.
dans la ville.
Dans la ville. L'année passée.
Oui.
Oui. En plus, le golf a coupé dans les dernières années à peu près 800 frênes. Il y a une quantité de frênes dans les boisés là, qui restent debout, on ne va jamais les couper. Dans les 3 dernières années, on a planté 250 arbres, ça veut dire 750 dans les 3 dernières années. On va continuer un autre 250 l'année prochaine aussi. So.
Parce que moi, dans le fond, quand je regarde, je vais au parc Terracotta, vous savez, à Pointe-Claire. Puis quand je me promène dans ce parc-là, je me sens dans une forêt, véritablement. Puis je regarde le parc Windsor, par exemple, qui serait peut-être une possibilité de planter des arbres pour avoir une densité d'arbres qui ferait quasiment qu'on entrerait comme dans une forêt. Ce serait mon rêve, mais en tout cas, peut-être pour les autres générations. Donc c'est plus dans cette optique-là d'avoir quelque chose qui...
Monsieur Carrière, je vais répondre à tes 3 questions, puis là, vous pourrez revenir. All right? C'est sûr, on n'en plante pas autant sur le golf. Le golf, c'est un golf, on ne peut pas planter des arbres partout. Mais il faut remplacer les arbres, les frênes qui ont tombé. À votre question de la maison c'est du jardinier. Jardinier. Là, le dossier avance tranquillement. On a fait une fouille archéologique mandatée par le ministère. Madame Graffière, quel ministère? Ministère de Culture?
Patrimoine.
Patrimoine. Ils ont trouvé des artefacts. Et là, à cause de ça, là, il a des décisions à prendre du côté du gouvernement, comment procéder. Et donc, le projet est un petit peu ralenti. Ça ne veut pas dire qu'on est arrêté, c'est juste que ça va prendre un petit peu plus de temps. Et ça, c'est pour faire les travaux qu'on veut faire. Le but de la rénovation de cette maison, une fois qu'on pourra procéder avec notre plan, c'est d'enlever tous les murs, les 2 étages et les murs à l'intérieur et exposer ça au public pour qu'ils voient comment la construction de cette maison a été faite dans le temps, parce qu'on ne construit pas des maisons comme ça aujourd'hui. Suite à ça, c'est possible qu'il va y avoir un agrandissement, une deuxième phase. On est très loin de ça. Puis, je pense que ça parle de votre question. Est-ce qu'il va y avoir quelque chose, une petite cantine, une place où on peut acheter de la crème glacée? Est-ce qu'on va avoir des toilettes publiques? Fort possible. Tout ça, c'est possible, mais on est un peu loin de placer une date exacte là-dessus. Mais c'est ça, ça c'était le but quand on a acheté la propriété. Et Pointe-Picard, status quo. On attend la décontamination faite par le provincial. J'ai entendu, c'est pas officiel, mais j'ai entendu qu'il y avait des travaux qui se sont faits sur le terrain récemment par une compagnie qui fait des études de sol. Et peut-être ça va avancer dans les prochains mois. Peut-être on est rendu à ce point-là, mais j'ai su ça en parlant avec des résidents dans le coin. Ça, c'est pas officiel. Mais pour le moment, on attend encore pour la décontamination. Il n'y a pas de plan. Et la Ville a demandé au gouvernement provincial, au fédéral, de nous donner accès au terrain pour $1, mais il veut nous le louer. Et à une somme très, très chère. On n'est pas prêt pour pour louer un terrain qu'on ne peut pas utiliser. All right? Non. Non, pas encore. Je vais continuer avec question 17, M. Fournier. 16? Oh, Madame Jones. Madame Jones, are you in the room, Mrs. Jones? Tonight was supposed to be the big reveal, the grand unveiling of the name of the new park, which will take place on February 20th on the city's various platforms. This according to the announcements. As of 10 a.m. this morning, it has not been announced. It was also said that the 3 names will be selected among all the suggestions received and the public survey will be launched. From February 1 to 15, inviting residents or citizens to vote for their preferred name. There's been no public consultations. There have been no big reveal. It has been announced that there were 96 names, so it's hard to pick the top. So is it hard to pick the top 3? Actually, it is. Or is it not the top 3? Now you are selecting the names. Can you at least release the results of the suggested names? I think I responded to that question earlier, Mrs. Jones. I think we're days away from it being public. I will not release the names tonight, but hopefully you'll have the opportunity to vote. The North Side Divide, question number 2. The Master Plan Bylaw RCM-60C-2015, the North South Divide of Dorval is mentioned 10 times. In Action Dorval, Action Team campaign promise was, quote, a team with a renewed community vision, end quote, is looking more like the same old, same old. So it also promised, quote, to develop a master plan for the creation of North-Side bicycle path favoring connections to local schools, commercial sectors, and public transit, end quote. This North-South connection specifically has not been mentioned since the elections. At the recent public consultation, the need for accessible North-South connections was brought up by many citizens, which did not seem to be in any of the planning and mainly disregarded. The residents of Dorval have a strong disconnect with the municipality that provides little or no connection between their living environments and services compared to its southern neighbors. When will the city be undertaking a real long-standing concern with the needs of this connection, not only foot traffic and cyclists, but proper roadway enabling its citizens of the north to access everyday services? Mrs. Jones, I totally disagree with what you're saying here. I think we're very much talking about this issue. The bike plan study, which we brought up earlier, speaks directly to that. We need to get that going as soon as possible, and I think that reflection in there, what was asked from the council, is clearly identified, and that's to have a north to south connection, bike path, and east to west across the city to make transport, mobility, to be able to move between the north and south easily. Council is also, discussing how we can move forward with making that connection between north and south. We're having discussions with Via Rail right now. I think you all heard in the news that a high-speed train or high-frequency train is going to run between Quebec City and Toronto, and I hope that Dorval will be a targeted station. It sounds to be that way. We'll get more information in the next few months. But for sure, there has to be a connection between Dorval Avenue, the circle to the north at that point. And we also need to find a better way of connecting the public north-south as well, and having a dedicated bike path on Pine Beach and along Dawson, northeast north, south, and east, west is a big part of that project. So I look forward to that study starting in the next couple of weeks. It has to start in the next couple of weeks. I look forward to it, and we will come back to you probably in the early fall, where we'll be showing that to the residents and then and going into some sort of consultation process as well. Question number 3, a visitor information center. Item number 412 on the agenda brought to mind a suggestion. House number 85 Martin is often for sale by the owner. The house would bring superb added value to the city. How? With a question mark. It could serve as a visitor information center, enter by the front and exit out the rear. Also with a gate into the park. The garden could be a place of respite, plaques of history. There are many ideas. There is a municipal parking lot adjacent. It's a perfect setup. Every town up and down both sides of the St. Lawrence have an information or visitor center, some more elaborate than others, but always well stocked with local brochures and services, museums, local businesses, and restaurants. This is also the first stop for visitors. Number 85 is a perfect size and look for the city. It would be a welcome addition to fill a void that is sadly lacking in Dorval. In the big picture of the expenditures that are being spent on sport facilities, I would like this would be a drop in the bucket. There is no doubt that the property will soon be sold and a large new build will replace it. Your actions could preempt this and conserve the look and heritage of the oldest street. The question is, will the council be taking action by considering in depth the worthy proposal to have a visitor information center on the property located at 85 Martin? Mrs. Jones, I can't say that that we've thought of doing that on that property. It's something the council will have to discuss internally. I think this is maybe even something that we can discuss with Dorval Main Streets, also known as Commerce Dorval, if this would be something helpful. So I thank you for the idea. I know at this time we're not talking about it, but I think the council members heard your question, and you know, maybe we'll find a way to discuss it. We will find a way to discuss it, and then we'll see where it goes from there. Monsieur Cognil Fournier, he's not in the room. Question 1. Bonjour, j'aimerais savoir si l'aide financière est accordée à un artiste dans le cadre d'une activité culturelle. Si ce n'est pas le cas, est-ce que la ville de Dorval va encourager les artisans dans le futur à faire la promotion du fonds d'aide auprès de la communauté artistique de Dorval? Car pour le moment, nous ne voyons aucune promotion de l'aide qui est disponible. Il semble que c'est surtout les associations sportives qui sont au courant de l'aide disponible. Monsieur Cognier-Fournier, je vais vous dire que récemment, on a ajouté un spécialiste sur la culture sur le comité. Le problème, c'est que on n'a pas vraiment beaucoup d'applications sur ce côté-là. Je pense, dans le prochain communiqué par Mme Duchâtel, on va avoir encore un article sur ce sujet-là. La seule chose que j'aimerais mentionner, c'est que les associations ne peuvent pas appliquer pour une subvention. Les subventions sont strictement pour les résidents de Dorval. Ça doit être un résident. Si vous allez sur notre site web, il y a un lien qui vous amène à tous les règlements du fonds d'aide. Vous pouvez le voir, et si vous avez des questions, comment ça fonctionne, je vous demanderai de contacter l'assistante à la directrice des loisirs, et elle pourrait vous expliquer les détails et même vous envoyer tous les règlements. Comité de sélection pour fonds d'aide.
Excusez, M. le maire, j'aurais une question pour vous.
Oui.
Est-ce que la danse écossaise est considéré comme un sport ou une activité culturelle?
On pense que c'est culturel.
Alors, voilà, parce que effectivement, il y a des subventions
Un peu.
qui sont données actuellement
Pour la
cette
danse
activité-là.
irlandaise.
Ouais.
Exactement.
Merci.
Mais merci, M. Trudeau, pour ça. Mais c'est sûr qu'on aimerait plus de demandes. J'aimerais savoir qui fait partie du comité de sélection de fonds d'aide, s'il y a des artistes qui en font partie, si oui, dans quel domaine artistique. Si ce n'est pas le cas, est-ce que ce serait possible d'avoir aussi une représentation du milieu artistique et si nous pouvons suggérer une personne? Vous pouvez suggérer une personne si vous voulez, M. Corneille Fourier. Là, je vais essayer de trouver un document ici. Le fonds on a 3 membres du conseil sur le fonds, 2 employés du service et loisirs et de la culture de la cité, 1 employé de la division d'assistance communautaire de la cité, 1 membre du comité exécutif de l'association athlétique du DA, qui est le DA, sur l'association athlétique de Dorval, et 4 citoyens de Dorval, donc une qui est venue récemment au comité parce que le domaine de la culture, c'est son domaine. Mais si vous voulez m'envoyer un nom, je serais très content de recevoir cette information-là. Quels sont les critères de sélection pour allouer une aide financière dans le cadre de programmes de fonds d'aide? Est-ce que les associations peuvent recevoir de l'aide pour un projet en particulier? Les exemples de coûts reliés à une pièce de théâtre, qui ce soit costume, location d'une salle, embauche d'un directeur artistique, etc. Je pense, M. Fournier-Courriel, j'ai répondu à ça. Les associations, les groupes n'ont pas le droit de faire des demandes. C'est seulement des individus. Je pourrais dire que, par exemple, je sais que vous êtes impliqué dans un projet de théâtre. Théâtre, M. Von Roers? Light Opera. Donc, je vais y assister, mais par exemple, la Ville est tout le temps ouverte à avoir des demandes de citoyens pour l'accès à nos édifices. Et dans votre cas, ce serait, j'imagine, l'auditorium à Jean 23. Donc, ça serait intéressant si des groupes comme le vôtre pourraient venir nous voir. Et peut-être on pourrait vous trouver un emplacement ici à Dorval pour faire votre présentation. Question 18, Madame Ivanova. Est-ce que vous êtes dans la salle?
My name is Silva Ivanova, 500 Musovar map. My first question is about the regulatory measures. Reflecting on the public survey we discussed previously, where some results were presented, the first 3 most important areas presented were affordable housing, green spaces, and water access. After that, sustainability, energy efficiency, emissions, bike paths, safe pedestrian paths, green roofs, walls, biodiversity preservation, and so on and so on. Now, those goals will be achieved, I assume, by different policy measures, some of them zoning, bylaws, building codes, and maybe committees managing implementation. So how does the administration plan to achieve, first to set achievable, measurable goals and deadlines, and then what combination of those regulatory measures will be used to accomplish those goals?
Question 2.
My second question is regarding affordable housing. Affordable housing is not just the first priority for Dorvalers, but in the whole country, US, European Union, and a lot of other places. Just small statistics, 46% of the employed people over 15 years in Dorval and most of the island of Montreal make under $40,000 before tax. According to the regulations that say 30% of income should be spent on housing, that makes $9,000 or $750 per month on housing. We all know that this is almost impossible. And unfortunately, lately, we see densification projects in form of luxury condos and rentals, where 3.5 is over $500,000 to acquire, or $1,600 to $1,800 to rent. Now I understand that the goal of developers is to make more money. However, the goal of the citizens is a little bit different, and is to achieve affordable housing where everybody, senior citizens and young people, actually stay in Dorval. There's a lot of amazing projects around the world and in Montreal. My question is, when I scroll in, how will the city implement such projects on its territory, and how is going to ensure that we have a balance and options for all income categories? My third question is regarding the process we already discussed earlier, and 3 so-called public consultations. So I attended 2 of them, and I watched the BC2 presentation, which presented a lot of the survey results. And it became clear to me, and a lot of people, I spoke to a lot of people there, it's not just an opinion, but I will state a few facts. Number 1 priority for Dorvalos, as per the survey, is affordable housing. That is the biggest priority. And that is also, coincidentally, the biggest urban trend in North America and in Europe. Somehow, BC2 did not even mention that, did not even present one project on that. They presented transport-oriented project. One of them was the Triangle. It was based on non-existent REM station and non-existent future plans of Dorval Circle, as discussed in the last council meeting. Yeah? Yes. So my question is, since the current rezoning process for all 8 districts will eliminate future public consultations and right to petition, and as you mentioned earlier, no discussions in the council meeting, when are we going to have a public consultation between elected officials and citizens only, when we can have a discussion and to create a comprehensive plan for sustainable densification of Dorval? Thank you.
Thank you. I think a large, I'm going to, a general statement here. I understand that people may have different opinions of the consultation. We're here, and we have people in the room who are stating that we haven't achieved anything, or not achieved what some people would expect. I think we're losing sight of the fact that what we've done is the beginning of a process. A process involves many steps. What we did is have a survey. From that, information will be derived. Then we had workshop sessions, 3 of them, where more information will be derived. And now what we're waiting for is for an analysis to be done of all this information. Once that information is clear, has been identified and written down on paper, it will be presented to the council, at which time we will have a reflection on that. We're not going to make any decisions at that time. We're simply going to read and understand what the 2 prior steps have provided to us in a synopsis. At which time then we will come back to the public and we will present the very same information that the council will receive in the form of a presentation and question and answer period. Okay, that's step number 3. We're not there yet. We're at the end of step 2. At that point, then there will need to be a reflection on what the results are and how council will proceed. But I can't tell you how council is going to proceed because we haven't done step 3 and we haven't finished step 2, right? We're saying that we are sitting here without any information and saying that the whole process was not valid. And that is a matter of opinion. I know there's some people who were very happy with the consultations. Not everybody was upset. And I think what we need to do is to be patient and wait till the information, well, I have no idea what that information is going to look like, but I think it's important that we wait for that information to be presented, at least before we start saying that it's not valid. I can't accept that something is invalid if we haven't even seen the information yet. I'm making a general statement. You said, how will we set achievable, measurable goals and deadlines on what regulatory measures are to be used to accomplish these goals? I don't have any information to go to answer that question. We're waiting for the report. Well, that's your question. How will we set achievable, measurable goals and deadlines, and what regulatory measures will be used to accomplish these goals? I can't answer that question because we haven't received the report. We're not at that point yet. That is point 4 on the...
This question was not about the zoning part. It's more general because this process is only about the zoning.
Your question is, Mr. Von Ors, please, reflecting on the public survey results. That's your question.
Yes.
Yeah. How will we set achievable, measurable goals and deadlines on what regulatory measures will be used to accomplish these goals?
Yes, because that includes bylaws, building codes.
Okay. Well, I'm answering the question. We will do that in step 4. We are just finishing step 2. We haven't even started step 3, and you're asking for an answer on what we're going to do in step 4. The next. I'm going to answer all your questions, okay? Because we've already been here for the better part of an hour and a half. Your next question 2, was affordable housing is the biggest policy priority, not only for citizens of Dorval, but in Canada, USA, and the EU. California passed a Social Housing Act in 2021. How will the city of Dorval implement such projects on the territory? Right now, we're waiting to see the results of the consultation. We have a tool that we were hoping to pass tonight, which would provide funds. Sorry, that's incorrect. We will, when we start working with the developers, there are possibilities, and I said this at a prior meeting, where we can discuss with them the building of affordable housing, and possibly acquiring land that could be used to build future affordable housing. But us as a city in Dorval, it is a little bit different than the situation in Montreal. Montreal gets funded by the provincial government. They have corporations, nonprofit corporations that manage this sort of development. Here in Dorval, we do not have access to that money. We try very hard to get access to that money. But I can tell you that this council understands the need for affordable housing. And once we've gone through this whole urban planning process and we have put in place rules and regulations, we'll then be able to sit with the future developers of this city to see how we can provide affordable housing. But we have to start at step 1, get to step 4, get the bylaws in place, and then work with the developers. You're asking me how to solve a problem before we've gotten to step 4 and the final step, which is new regulations. That will come in the next few months. Today, I cannot answer clearly how the city will implement this until we have all the information we need to put in the appropriate regulations to be able to work with developers to provide affordable housing.
So were you referring to subsidized housing when you answered this question? Because affordable housing does not need any funding from the city. There are many forms of affordable housing. Are you aware of that?
I am aware of that.
Yes. So which ones require funding from the city and which ones don't?
They both need support.
No, they don't. They don't need financial involvement.
Okay.
The city does self-sustainable.
Okay, I will go to question 3, and then you can come back to that, Mike. After attending 2 public consultations and watching the BCD presentation, it became clear to me and most present that the presentation did not reflect the survey results in the latest urban planning trends. Where are we going to the public consultations in order to outline a complete plan of sustainable densification in Dorval? I think we've answered that question. We need to get through this whole consultation process. We are exactly doing what you're asking us to do, but we need to finish steps 1, 2, and 3, get to 4, and then we'll put the regulations in place to have, a clear plan to develop this city in a sustainable manner.
My question was when are you going to hold public consultations?
Step 3. Step 3.
Step 3, actually, you described as really present the findings, and we'll have a question and answer period.
We don't have the date yet.
This is not a public consultation. I'm asking when are we going to have a public consultation? No question and answer.
We just had 3 public consultations. We had 3 workshops, and we will have another public consultation as part of step 3. Okay?
Workshops, are we having public consultations?
We've had both. I'm sorry. I've answered the questions. We've had 3 public consultations. We've had 3 public workshop sessions. We will have 1 more public consultation.
On record, you said we had 2 workshops. Workshop and public consultation are 2 different things. Could you please specify if we are going to have a real public consultation?
We're going to have a public consultation as part of phase 3. I'm sorry you don't like the answer, but that's the answer. We are going to have a public a review of the documentations where there will be an opportunity for the public to discuss with us, council, the report.
Is it going to be presented by you or by the city?
It hasn't been decided.
Okay, so please decide on a real public consultation next time because this is a question will be brought up again.
Okay. We are now at 9:15. I will give the opportunity to anybody in the room to come back and ask rebuttal questions. It will be a 30-minute session, at which time the council will decide to vote to either extend the 30 minutes or not.
So you didn't answer my questions, so I'm going to read just the questions. The questions are straightforward and simple and short, but you didn't answer them at all. Will this council, I didn't ask you if there's citizens on the committees. I asked you if you're going to open it up. So you didn't answer like you usually do. Question number 1 was answered completely and honestly. A pleasant change, and I compliment you. It was answered perfectly and completely. Question 2. I'm trying to just find the question. Will this council commit from this day forward to opening up all appointments to all committees, to the general public, so that any qualified citizen can apply?
Mr. Nzola, my answer remains the same. Council will reflect on what committees could be opened up. I mean, many committees take place at very specific times where the public is not available.
How do you know all the public's not available in the times that you're thinking? That's a ridiculous answer. Ridiculous.
Okay, Mr. Nzola, everybody's been patient tonight, very, very patient. Please keep your voice low.
Well,
I'm answering your question.
my voice is going to stay low if you answer the question honestly.
I am. The council will have a reflection on 2 things, whether or not In the future, we will expand
So
committees to
I've
include.
asked this many times, and that's the answer I've gotten. So when are you going to do this reflection, and when are you going to give me an answer? I've been asking this for 15 years, and I always get the same answer. So when are you going to give me an answer are you going to open up all committees to all citizens so that they can apply?
Well,
and then you decide,
Council will have
because you
that
are the
reflection.
king, you will decide who's on it.
Mr.
But at least other
Mazzola,
people.
keep your voice down, please. Next question, please. I've answered your question, Mr.
When
Mazzola.
will you tell me, when will you be able to give me an answer to that question? You said you're going to reflect,
We'll
talk
reflect.
about it?
You can ask the question next month. Maybe I'll have an answer.
Okay. Also, will this council commit to releasing all the minutes of all the different committees to the public? You didn't touch on that at all.
I did. Council will reflect on which committee minutes we will make public.
So I should ask that again next month?
You can. I have to review with our city clerk to see what we
But
can
I've
actually
asked
make
that also
public.
in the past,
Yeah.
also. Not as much
Yeah.
as the other question, but I've asked that also.
We need to
And
review.
you're still reflecting, that's good. It
We're-
took you 9 years to reflect on whether you should webcast. It took you 9 years. Then you only did it because of COVID, the rest we wouldn't even have that.
Mr. Nazola, we're here for question
Okay, so,
period.
question 3, for the creek. Since you've been elected, has the city taken any measures to deal with the toxins and pollutants being dumped into the creek?
The city doesn't decontaminate the creek, Mr. Nazola. I explained that we work with the Environment Service of the City of Montreal, where they have all the resources required.
So basically,
to decontaminate
you don't do
the
nothing.
creek.
When a citizen calls you and says something's floating in the creek, you call them. So nothing is done to prevent something in the creek. You just wait for someone to tell you, hey.
Not at all,
there's-
Mr. Nazola.
there's stuff
I
going-
told you that
Okay.
most of the dumping that takes place is illegal dumping. It's,
So you can't do nothing, that's fine. At least you
it's
can say-
difficult
you
to
can
be
say we
there
can't
at
do
all
nothing.
hours of the night.
Sorry?
It's difficult to be there at all hours of the night, all along the creek, to see who's doing illegal
I
dumping.
guess that's the same, you're not planning to take any measures then, because you really can't do anything. You're not planning to take any measures in the future.
Okay,
to
next
prevent-
question, Mr.
That's-
Nazola. We're here
that's-
for question period.
Well, that's a question.
Thank
That's a
you.
question, thank you.
No, it's an accusation.
No, the question is, okay, are you planning to take any measures to deal with the important issue in the future? That was the question.
Okay, your question's been answered.
Okay, so back to the survey. You said that you will publish the interpretation of the survey when you receive the report from BC2.
We will
what I'm-
publish the results of the survey.
No, well, first you said the interpretation, so that's exactly my precise question. I don't want interpretations. I want the raw data, all the answers per questions, per district. Only that, not in a beautiful PowerPoint presentation, just the numbers. We want that.
I don't know that I can provide that answer. I'll have to ask the city clerk if that's possible.
Are you saying that you don't have records of the survey?
I do, I just don't know whether I can release that information publicly.
Ooh. Well, that will create a big problem if you can't, because where is the democratic process in the city? I believe all information should be received.
It's a question period, so I'm going to answer your question.
Yes, please.
We're going to release the information that the report that we're going to get from BC2.
Yes, that's what I'm asking for, yes.
And we did answer that before to you. I did answer that before.
Well, no, because the answer was no. The answer was no, we're going to have a presentation.
No, since the beginning, we're telling you that the resume and the document, les conclusions de BC2 will
Yeah.
be public. That's what we said since the beginning.
Absolutely.
Tonight.
There will be a report presented in step 3 of this process.
When is, that's my next question. What is the deadline for that report?
We're hoping to have it I believe it's end of April, March, beginning of April. Is that what we discussed today?
That's what they say.
Okay, well, that actually brings another question that I did not have before, because you hired BC2 for this job, and you did not have a call for tender last year. It was exactly a year ago, actually, because you explained that in another session that you had a very tight deadline, and no other company, no other urban firm was available to do the job within that deadline. According to that deadline, BC2 should have completed the process, actually, I think at the end of last year. And we're still dragging it, and somehow we don't have a
what's
deadline
the question
for this.
here? We
So,
answered the question as to when they're presenting their report.
yes.
Yeah.
So my question is, why did you not have a call for tender, and you allowed the company to drag it for 2 years instead of having other companies?
I don't know what information you have. There was definitely a call for tender, and it wasn't 2 years ago.
It was last year, I said, not 2 years ago.
You said
Last
2
year.
years ago.
I did, sorry, no, I was last year, in 2022, I believe. No? There was not a call for tender, and I saw the video of another council meeting in which somebody brought the question, and you answered why there was no call for tender.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I'm incorrect. There was no call for tender. Yes, it was given to BC2.
Yes,
This has
and
been
your
answered in the
answer
past.
to the question why was that you had a deadline and no other company, you approached them by email or by phone, I don't know by how, and no other company was available to do the job within the deadline that you presented, and that's why you hired BC2, because they were the only ones available. And
Okay,
now they are extending the...
So now I've responded to that question. The report will be end of March, beginning of April. That's when the report will
Well,
be
you
presented.
said you were hoping, so yeah, that's very unclear. So I will need, would you have the date by next week if I pass by the city?
I don't think so, but
You don't think so?
we'll try to clarify that with them.
Okay, so my next question is, well, next time, would you please have call for tender for any company that you're hiring?
There's sometimes when we do and sometimes we not.
No,
we
for
do
serious
not
things
need
like
to.
zoning, please, will you commit to a call for tender? And to my last question, you mentioned that the solution to affordable housing is, again, you're hoping to talk to developers and you're hoping that they will be willing to build some affordable housing. I don't think that is a very good plan, so can you please come up with a better plan?
I'll reflect on it, along with council.
Okay, and when can I have an answer to that? Is next week of
Well,
a
when we
good time?
present, in step, yeah, I said the presentation will be made in step 3 to the general public. We will see what is presented in that information. Council will review it, at which time we will be able to have a reflection on what kind of regulations we would like to see in the city, including affordable housing, what that will look like. But you're asking me to make a decision on something that I have not yet seen the data.
But you already answered the question somehow.
Okay.
You had a clear answer to that. I obviously don't like it, but yeah, I'll be back here for more answers. Thank you.
Very good. Are we done with question period, or is there any more questions?
Can I ask one more question about the survey?
At the end of the survey period, you said there was 600 respondents. The first consultation, that was changed to 1,000 respondents. Now, tonight, you said you had 1,200 respondents.
No, 1,002. 1,002.
1,002, okay, so it's not as bad as I thought. I thought you said...
And 175 who presented themselves to the 3 workshops.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question on process. How many cities change the order of questions that people ask at question period? I find it really unusual that the mayor would answer the third question before the first question. Because when we are putting these questions to City Council, there's a lot of thought on our parts in terms of what would be a logical kind of sequence to go through it. So I'm just wondering, is this something that Dorval has come up with, or is this done at other city councils?
I certainly didn't do it to annoy anyone, so I appreciate your comment. I'll make sure that next session we answer all questions in order.
I would appreciate that. Thank you.
OK. On va procéder avec l'ordre du jour. Est-ce que tout le monde est prêt? 2.1, approbation du procès-verbal de la séance tenue du 23 janvier.
Oui, Monsieur le maire, je propose d'adopter le procès-verbal de la séance du 23 janvier 2023 tel que rédigé.
J'appuie.
Merci. Quelqu'un contre? 2.2, dépôt d'un procès-verbal de correction de la greffière. C'est un dépôt. 2.3, est-ce qu'on a des questions là-dessus? Non. 2.2. 2.3, dépôt de la liste de délégations. Ah non, on a retiré, excuse. Règlement de délégation, 3.1, dépôt des rapports de décision déléguée. Est-ce qu'on a des questions là-dessus?
C'est bon.
Merci. Avis de motion et dépôt d'un projet de règlement LCM 96-2023 sur l'utilisation des pesticides et des engrais aux fins d'adapter les dispositions aux exigences du Code de gestion des pesticides du Québec.
Monsieur le maire, je donne avis de motion afin de proposer à une séance ultérieure du Conseil le règlement RCM 96-2023 sur l'utilisation des pesticides et des engrais aux fins d'adapter les dispositions aux exigences du Code de gestion des pesticides du Québec et dépose le dit projet de règlement. Je pense que le titre décrit quand même assez bien le projet. C'est pour bien réglementer l'usage des pesticides. Ceci, c'est exigé comme mentionné dans le Code de gestion des pesticides du Québec, mais c'est aussi touché dans le plan directeur d'urbanisme durable, si je ne me trompe pas.
J'appuie.
Non, c'est un avis.
Ah,
4.1, rejet de soumission dans le cadre de l'appel d'offres TP 2022-31.
Mr. Mayor, I propose that we reject the submission of Sodem Inc., the only firm that deposited a submission following the call for tenders TP 2022-31 for management, exploitation, and maintenance of external aquatic center services. And I propose that we authorize the Public Works Services to evaluate possible scenarios to ensure that we maintain appropriate management, exploitation, and maintenance and operation of the three outdoor aquatic centers to the best fiscal responsibility and to take the necessary steps toward contracts in the future as required.
J'appuie, Monsieur le maire.
Quelqu'un contre? 4.2, location de 2 véhicules pour service de travaux publics, division aqueduc et peinture, prolongation du contrat.
Monsieur le maire, je propose d'autoriser le paiement de 9 factures au contrat octroyé à l'entreprise Enterprise pour un montant supplémentaire de 21 144,20 sous, toute taxe comprise, pour la prolongation du contrat de location de 2 véhicules pour le service des travaux publics, division aqueduc et peinture.
J'appuie.
Quelqu'un contre? 4.3, renouvellement de couverture d'assurance et responsabilité civile, responsabilité municipale, biens, brises et d'équipements et d'élite pour la période du 1er janvier 2023 au 1er janvier 2024.
Je propose, Monsieur le maire, d'autoriser le paiement à BFL Canada Risque et Assurance Inc. d'un montant total de 194 275,22 sous, toutes taxes comprises, incluant la facture émise le 13 janvier au montant de 101 420,22, toutes taxes comprises, pour le renouvellement des couvertures d'assurance en biens et bris d'équipement et délits de la Cité d'Orval pour la période du 1er janvier 2023 au 1er janvier 2024 et la facture émise le 26 janvier au montant de 92 855 $, toutes taxes comprises, pour le renouvellement de couverture d'assurance en responsabilité civile et responsabilité municipale, également pour la période du 1er janvier 2023 au 1er janvier 2024.
Appuyeur.
Je seconde, Monsieur le maire.
Quelqu'un contre? 4.4, service d'ouverture et fermeture du tennis, du golf, des terrains du golf de tennis municipal d'Orval.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, would be to renew for the second and last option year of contract LC 2021-01 granted to Advantage Court, Inc. to carry out the opening and closing work of 8 hard-true tennis courts at the Dorval Municipal Tennis Club for 2023 in the amount of $18,156.85, including taxes.
I second.
Contre? Quelqu'un contre? 4.5, service de marquage de la chaussée, renouvellement 2023.
Je propose, Monsieur le maire, d'autoriser le renouvellement pour la 3e année d'option du contrat TP 2020-07 accordé à l'entreprise TRA 2011 Inc. pour le marquage de la chaussée des pistes cyclables ainsi que des stationnements intérieurs et extérieurs de la Cité d'Orval pour 2023 au montant global de 231 223,22 $, toutes taxes comprises, plus ajustement selon l'indice du prix à la consommation.
Je seconde, Monsieur le maire.
Quelqu'un contre? 4.6, fourniture et livraison de terreau, renouvellement pour 2023.
Je propose, Monsieur le maire, d'autoriser le renouvellement pour la 2e année d'option du contrat TP 2021-07 accordé à l'entreprise Les Sols Champlain Inc. pour la fourniture et la livraison de terreau pour lits de plantation d'annuels et de vivaces, l'engazonnement et la plantation d'arbres pour la saison 2023 au montant global de 37 357,96 sous, toutes taxes comprises, plus l'ajustement selon l'indice du prix à la consommation.
J'appuie.
Quelqu'un contre? Merci. 4.7, service de rinçage unidirectionnel et recherche de fuite sur le réseau aquaduc.
Je propose, Monsieur le maire, d'autoriser le renouvellement pour la 2e année d'option du contrat TP 2020-26 accordé à l'entreprise Simo Management Inc. pour le rinçage unidirectionnel et la recherche de fuite sur le réseau d'aqueduc pour 2023 au montant de 46 117,39 sous, toutes taxes comprises, plus ajustement selon l'indice du prix à la consommation.
J'appuie, Monsieur le maire.
Quelqu'un contre? 4.8, fourniture et installation de gazon en plaque, renouvellement 2023.
Monsieur le maire, je propose d'autoriser le renouvellement pour la première année d'option du contrat TP 2022-05 accordé à l'entreprise B&B Déneigement et Pelouse Inc., B&B Lawn and Snow Inc., pour la fourniture et l'installation sur demande de gazon en plaque pour 2023 au montant global de 50 703,98 sous, toutes taxes comprises, plus ajustement selon l'indice du prix à la consommation.
J'appuie.
Quelqu'un contre? Merci. 4.9, autorisation de paiement de droits d'utilisation annuel 2023, logiciel de gestion de temps Fidelio.
Oui, Monsieur le maire, c'est pour autoriser les paiements de Consoft Technology, Inc., Fidelio, des droits d'utilisation annuel de 2023 au montant global de 54 440,66 sous, toutes taxes comprises.
J'appuie, Monsieur le maire.
Merci. Quelqu'un contre? 4.10, service de révision de devis et de suivi des procédures d'appel d'offres pour 2023.
Je propose, Monsieur le maire, d'approuver un montant additionnel de 20 000 1 sous, toute taxe comprise, à la commande de 14 999,99 émise en janvier 2023 à la firme Telcel pour couvrir la révision des devis, le lancement et suivi du processus d'appel d'offres, l'étude de conformité des soumissions et la recommandation d'octroi de contrat. Le tout pour un mandat d'une valeur totale ne dépassant pas 35 000 $, toutes taxes comprises.
J'appuie.
Merci. Quelqu'un contre? 4.11, autorisation de paiement de droits de licence à la SOCAN.
Mr. Mayor, I propose that we authorize paying $16,370.03, all taxes included, to Entandem for the licensing rights for 2023, according to the associated fees listed in Annex A as an attached document for 2023-01-012617.
I second that.
Merci. Quelqu'un contre? Merci. 4.12, réaménagement du parc Saint-Charles, phase 2.
Monsieur le maire, je propose qu'on accorde un contrat à l'entreprise Lanco Aménagement Inc., plus bas soumissionnaire conforme, pour les travaux de réaménagement du parc Saint-Charles, phase 2, qui inclut stationnement puis l'entrée du parc, pour un montant global de 585 972,39 $, toutes taxes comprises, conformément à sa soumission ouverte le 26 janvier 2023.
J'appuie, monsieur le maire.
Merci. Quelqu'un contre? 4.13, correction de la résolution CM 2301-028, service professionnel pour 2023, programme de parents soutien des ados plus.
Je propose, monsieur le maire, que la résolution CM 2301-028 soit modifiée en remplaçant le nom de Philippe Terrien par celui de Clinique de psychologie Fabre Incorporée.
J'appuie.
Merci. Quelqu'un contre? Merci. 4.14, fourniture et installation de 2 unités de déshumidification à l'Arena Edgar Rouleau.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, would be to authorize the issuing of a order to Simcoe for the amount of $117,000 and $130.78, including taxes, for the supply and installation of a 2 Arid Ice 2500E dehumidification units at the Edgar Rouleau Arena.
I'll second that motion and just mention this was not part of the project, so this isn't an additional cost related to this project. This was always something envisioned as a separate expense item for that arena.
Correct. Thank you, Mr. Von Reutz. Un appuyeur?
I'll second it. Yeah.
Quelqu'un contre? 4.15, autorisation de signature d'un acte de servitude de passage et d'entretien avec 9366-8200 Québec Inc. et autres.
Je propose, monsieur le maire, d'autoriser le maire et la greffière à signer pour et au nom de la cité d'Orval un acte de servitude et de reconnaissance du droit de propriété à intervenir entre la cité d'Orval et la compagnie 9366-8200 Québec Inc. et Alexander Tandel et être enregistré sur les lots 6220-961, 6220-962, 6220-964, 6220-965, 6220-969, 6220-970, 6220-982, 6220-983, 620-985, 620-986, 620-987 et finalement 620-998 du cadastre du Québec, circonscription foncière de Montréal, le tout selon les termes et conditions apparaissant au projet d'acte de servitude joint au dossier décisionnel 2023-02-012-761 ou tout autre terme et condition qui sera jugé dans l'intérêt de la cité et d'autoriser le maire et la greffière à signer pour et au nom de la cité d'Orval tout autre document requis pour donner effet à la présente résolution.
J'appuie.
Merci. Quelqu'un contre? Merci, M. Trudeau. Vous n'avez pas manqué...
manqué d'air un peu, là.
Bingo!
Bon. 4.16, service de location d'un camion cube pour la division aquaduc et égout. Prolongement du contrat.
Monsieur le maire, je propose d'autoriser la prolongation de location d'un camion cube 12 pieds avec flèche motorisée et gyrophare jusqu'au 30 juin 2023 au contrat octroyé à l'entreprise Location Savageau Inc. pour un montant ne dépassant pas 15 257 15 sous, toutes taxes comprises.
J'appuie.
Quelqu'un contre? Merci. 4.17, achat de 3 véhicules hybrides pour la sécurité publique.
Je propose, Monsieur le maire, d'autoriser l'acquisition de 3 véhicules hybrides de marque fort utilitaire à traction intégrale auprès du Centre d'acquisition gouvernementale, le CAG, au montant global de 196 931 48 sous, toutes taxes comprises, d'autoriser le service des travaux publics à entreprendre les démarches en vue de l'acquisition des équipements et accessoires requis pour ces véhicules, ainsi qu'à leur marquage et lettrage, et d'autoriser la disposition des véhicules 93-12, 94-21 et 95-21 par le biais du service d'appel d'offres du Centre d'acquisition gouvernementale, le CAG, suite à la réception des nouveaux véhicules, le tout conformément à la politique de disposition des biens de la cité.
J'appuie.
Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre? Merci. Achat de véhicules électriques dans le cadre du virage électrique.
Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure I should translate this one on the fly. I motion that we authorize Public Works Services and the Material Resources Division to take the necessary steps to acquire the following recommended electric vehicles for an amount not exceeding $603,819.96. It's multiple vehicles. I also motion that we authorize the disposal of vehicles 22-3, 23-15, 83-14, 85-15, 91-7, 92-7, and 90-10, formerly 2110, through a process of call for public tenders using the Centre d'acquisition gouvernementale, CAG, following the reception of the new vehicles consistent with the the policy for the disposal of goods of the city.
J'appuie.
Quelqu'un contre? Merci. 4.19, fourniture et livraison de fleurs annuelles en panier suspendu pour 2023.
Je propose d'émettre une commande d'achat à l'entreprise Les Serres Riel Inc., plus bas soumissionnaire conforme pour le lot numéro 1 au montant de 55 825,77 sous, toutes taxes comprises. Pour le lot numéro 2 au montant de 29 335,69 sous, toutes taxes comprises, conformément à sa soumission ouverte le 25 janvier 2023. Et d'émettre une commande d'achat à l'entreprise Les Jardins WG Charlebois Inc., le plus bas soumissionnaire conforme pour le lot numéro 3 au montant de 9 712,96 sous, toutes taxes comprises, conformément à sa soumission ouverte le 25 janvier 2023.
J'appuie.
Merci. Quelqu'un contre? 4.20, service professionnel dans le cadre de maintien de l'équité salariale.
Je propose, Monsieur le maire, d'autoriser les représentants de la cité à réaliser l'exercice du maintien d'équité salariale 2015 à 2020 avec l'Union des municipalités du Québec, l'UMQ, tel que décrit à l'offre de service jointe au dossier décisionnel 2023-02-012766 et pour un montant ne dépassant pas 25 000 toutes taxes comprises en honoraires professionnels.
J'appuie, Monsieur le maire.
Quelqu'un contre? Merci. 4.21, service d'ouverture et fermeture des 3 centres aquatiques extérieurs et d'un jardin d'eau et contrôle de la qualité d'eau de baignade. Renouvellement 2023.
Monsieur le maire, je propose de renouveler pour la troisième année d'option le contrat TP 2020-11 accordé à l'entreprise Sodem Inc. pour des travaux d'ouverture, fermeture, entretien, opération et contrôle de qualité de l'eau de 3 centres aquatiques et d'un jardin d'eau pour 2023 au montant global de 205 922,37 sous, toutes taxes comprises.
J'appuie.
Quelqu'un contre? Merci. 5.1, dépôt de liste de dépenses autorisées. Est-ce qu'on a des questions? 4.2, autorisation des dépenses et de réclamation.
Je propose...
Oui, monsieur le maire. Oui, Monsieur le maire, ce serait pour autoriser les paiements des réclamations décrites au rapport de la greffière pour la période du 12 janvier au 3 février 2023 et totalisant 6 032,89 $ non taxables.
J'appuie.
Quelqu'un compte? 5.3, approbation de virement budgétaire. Monsieur Trudeau.
Oui, je propose, Monsieur le maire, d'autoriser toute la série des virements budgétaires qui touchent l'exercice 2020-22 qui ont été présentés par les finances.
Je l'appuie.
Quelqu'un compte? Merci. 5.4, dons et subscriptions.
Je propose d'autoriser une assistance financière aux organismes suivants. Club philatélique du Lakeshore au montant de 300 $ à imputer au poste budgétaire 02 110 00 340. Lakeshore Concert Band au montant de 200 $ à imputer au poste budgétaire 02 110 00 340. Aaron Sport Association Inc. au montant de 750 $ à imputer au poste budgétaire 02 110 00 310. Fondation de l'hôpital La Chine au montant de 3 500 $ à imputer au poste budgétaire 02 110 00 310. A-Wish au montant de 450 $ à imputer au poste budgétaire 02 590 30 996. Club. Oh, c'est tout. Excusez.
C'est tout.
Désolé.
J'appuie.
Merci. Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre? Oui. Vous êtes contre la résolution ou une partie de la résolution?
Ben, je suis contre pas contre les organismes parce que je suis pour redonner à la société. Par contre, on donne beaucoup d'argent et c'est l'argent des citoyens. Et il faut absolument avoir une politique avec des objectifs, quels sont les organismes visés, les dons, les commandites. Je l'ai déjà demandé dans le passé et ça me chicote trop qu'on donne de l'argent comme ça sans avoir d'exigence de reddition de comptes. Alors, j'aimerais ça avoir une politique là-dessus et ça n'empêche pas que je veux donner aux organismes, mais il y a une politique à avoir, je crois, à la municipalité avec des objectifs pour les dons et les commandites et surtout, quels sont nos objectifs?
Donc, j'aurais posé la question, vous êtes contre la résolution ou une partie de la résolution?
Je suis contre la résolution.
Merci. 4.5, achat de cartes cadeaux dans le cadre du programme d'aide alimentaire.
Je propose, Monsieur le maire, d'autoriser l'achat de cartes cadeaux pour 2023 auprès du fournisseur FundStream pour un montant allant jusqu'à 35 000 $ pour l'achat de nourriture et articles divers dans le cadre du programme d'aide alimentaire.
J'appuie, Monsieur le maire.
Est-ce qu'il y a quelqu'un contre? Merci. 5.6, approbation d'une politique sur le télétravail.
Mr. Mayor, given that the city of Dorval has, I think, outstanding staff, we're very fortunate of that. The city motto is not just it's good to live in Dorval, but also it's good to work in Dorval. And that we've recognized over recent years the importance of a work-life balance, and that in retaining the quality employees we have and keeping them within the city, we need to be open-minded to modifying certain policies. And it's with that in mind that I'm very pleased to propose that we adopt the provided policy on télétravail, work from home, as submitted.
J'appuie, Monsieur le maire.
Merci. Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre? Merci. 5.7, approbation d'une politique relative à la tenue vestimentaire revisée.
Je propose, Monsieur le maire, d'approuver la politique relative à la tenue vestimentaire telle que révisée.
Une seconde, j'appuie.
Quelqu'un contre? Merci. 5.8, autorisation d'une assistance financière, fonds d'aide et de soutien aux citoyens et citoyennes de Dorval.
Je propose d'autoriser une assistance financière dans le cadre du fonds d'aide et de soutien aux citoyens et citoyennes de Dorval ou aux personnes suivantes. Antoine Barcelo, subvention au montant de 692,50 $. La Cité de Dorval vise à faciliter la participation des jeunes dans des activités de loisirs telles que définies dans son plan à l'égard des personnes handicapées. Suite à l'analyse de toute la documentation fournie, le comité d'évaluation approuve une subvention de tel montant pour couvrir les frais d'accompagnement d'un athlète à besoins particuliers. Le demandeur doit fournir un rapport de l'accompagnateur et une preuve de paiement à la fin de la période. Le deuxième, c'est pour Aslyn Bates, subvention d'un montant de 4 950, je recommence, 4 986 et 58 sous pour l'année 2021. Aslyn Bates est une danseuse irlandaise de calibre international qui représente Dorval au niveau national et international. Suite à l'analyse de toute la documentation fournie, le comité d'évaluation approuve une subvention de 4 986 et 58 sous qui couvre les frais d'entraînement ainsi que les frais de déplacement et d'hébergement. Le troisième est aussi pour Aslyn Bates, subvention d'un montant de 5 000 qui est le maximum. Cette fois-ci pour l'année 2022. Aslyn Bates, encore danseuse irlandaise de calibre international, nous représente la ville de Dorval au national et à l'international. Suite à l'analyse de toutes les documentations fournies, le comité d'évaluation approuve la subvention de 5 000 qui couvre les frais d'entraînement ainsi que les frais de déplacement et d'hébergement. Le tout est financé par une affectation du Fonds d'aide et de soutien aux citoyens et citoyennes de Dorval.
J'appuie.
Merci. Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre? Merci. 6.1, dépôt de procès verbal, comité consultatif d'urbanisme du 6 février 2023. Est-ce qu'on a des questions? 6.2, dépôt de rapport comparatif et liste de permis janvier 2023. Est-ce qu'on a des questions? 6.3, plan d'implantation et intégration architecturelle. Recommandation du comité consultatif d'urbanisme du 6 février 2023.
Oui, M. le maire, ce serait pour approuver les recommandations du comité consultatif urbaniste telles que soumises en ce qui traite au projet suivant. Projet de construction d'une habitation unifamiliale isolée au 36 avenue Saint-Charles, non recommandé. Projet d'une construction d'une habitation unifamiliale isolée au 735 avenue Rockcliffe, recommandé majoritairement. Projet de construction d'une habitation unifamiliale isolée au 282 avenue Clément, non recommandé. Projet de construction d'une habitation unifamiliale isolée au 577 Crescent Oriole, recommandé majoritairement. Projet d'agrandissement d'une habitation unifamiliale isolée au 1810 avenue Windermere, recommandé majoritairement. Projet d'agrandissement d'un bâtiment patrimonial au 2 avenue Martin, non recommandé. Projet d'agrandissement d'une habitation unifamiliale isolée au 115 avenue Boland, recommandé majoritairement. Projet de construction d'une habitation mixte au 200 avenue Dorval, recommandé majoritairement. Projet d'affiche d'un bâtiment industriel au 108 avenue Avro, non recommandé. Projet d'affiche d'une habitation commerciale au service au 1805 route transcanadienne, recommandé majoritairement. De prendre acte des motifs refusés dans les cadres des plans non recommandés par le comité consultatif d'urbanisme tel que indiqué au procès verbal du comité consultatif urbanisme jointe à la présente résolution pour et en faire partie intégrante.
J'appuie.
Est-ce qu'il y a quelqu'un contre? 6.4, dépôt de procès verbal du comité d'études de démolition immeuble du 6 février. Est-ce qu'on a des questions? Merci. 7.1, programme TEC 2019 à 2023, programme de travaux, revision 4.
Monsieur le maire, comme à chaque année, je propose que la Cité s'engage à respecter les modalités du guide qui s'applique à elle. que la Cité s'engage à être la seule responsable et à dégager le gouvernement du Canada et le gouvernement du Québec, de même que leurs ministres, leurs hauts fonctionnaires, employés et mandataires de toute responsabilité quant aux réclamations, exigences, pertes, dommages et coûts de toutes sortes ayant comme fondement une blessure infligée à une personne, le décès de celle-ci, des dommages causés à des biens ou la perte de biens attribuables à un acte délibéré ou négligent découlant directement ou indirectement des investissements réalisés au moyen de l'aide financière obtenue dans le cadre du programme de la TEQ 2019 jusqu'à 2023. Que la Cité approuve le contenu et autorise l'envoi au ministère des Affaires municipales et de l'Habitation de la programmation de travaux numéro 4 ci-jointe et de tous les autres documents exigés par le ministère en vue de recevoir la contribution gouvernementale qui lui a été confirmée dans une lettre de la ministère des Affaires municipales et de l'Habitation. Que la Cité s'engage à atteindre le seuil minimal d'immobilisation qui lui est imposé pour l'ensemble des 5 années du programme, que la Cité s'engage à informer le ministère des Affaires municipales et de l'Habitation de toute modification qui sera apportée à la programmation des travaux approuvés par la présente résolution, et finalement que la Cité atteste par la présente résolution que la programmation de travaux numéro 4 ci-jointe comporte les coûts réalisés véridiques et reflète les prévisions de coûts des travaux admissibles.
J'appuie.
Merci. Quelqu'un contre? Merci. 7.2, approbation de bilan de réalisation 2021 à l'égard des personnes handicapées.
Je propose, Monsieur le maire, de ratifier tel que soumis le bilan des réalisations 2021 à l'égard des personnes handicapées de la Cité de Dorval.
J'appuie. Je suis très appréciant de ce rapport et le travail que ce comité font.
Merci. Quelqu'un contre? 8.1, confirmation de permanence au poste de secrétaire de la direction de services des loisirs et de la culture.
Monsieur le maire, je propose de confirmer à compter du 1er février 2023 la nomination permanente de Mme Julie Cadet au poste de secrétaire de direction au service des loisirs et de la culture.
J'appuie.
Merci. Est-ce qu'il y a quelqu'un contre? Merci. 8.2, modification de l'organigramme de 2 services, direction de loisirs et culture et direction de génie.
Monsieur le maire, je propose d'autoriser la création d'un poste de chef de division aquatique au service des loisirs et de culture, d'autoriser la nomination de Catherine Hewlett au poste de chef de division aquatique et de Anthony Stock au poste de chef de section sport et installation, d'autoriser la modification du poste de gestionnaire de projet pour un poste de chef de division génie au service de génie, d'autoriser la nomination de Sonia Fredette, présentement titulaire du poste de gestionnaire de projet au poste de chef de division génie, finalement d'autoriser la division des ressources humaines à actualiser la structure organisationnelle de la Cité et des organigrammes des 2 services concernés, conformément aux recommandations du directeur général et aux organigrammes joints au dossier décisionnel 2012-02-012-802.
J'appuie.
Merci. Quelqu'un contre? Section 9, affaires nouvelles, on n'a rien. Section 10, levée de la séance. Donc, je propose qu'on lève la séance. Pas moi, non. Je propose pas.
Non.
J'ai besoin de quelqu'un pour proposer.
Je propose 2 choses, Monsieur le maire. J'aimerais remercier Mme Louisa Sedoun pour les services qu'elle nous a fournis au conseil de ville ces derniers mois. Et je propose la levée de l'Assemblée là aussi.
Bon, merci tout le monde. Bonne soirée.
J'appuie.
Second.
On n'est pas contre. Il n'y a personne contre. Hein? Non. Merci à tout le monde. On se revoit le mois prochain. Bonne soirée.